Halo 1, 2, and 3 took place over 3 months, and we had Halo Wars, ODST.
The other advantages there was that we thought the Japanese sense of narrative and storytelling could maybe bring a slightly different pacing and a slightly different angle to the Halo universe. And bluntly speaking, a lot of us were anime fans, and so that made it very simple.
One of the big things about the Halo franchise that sort of differentiates it from other games of its ilk is really the story and the universe and the depth of the storytelling that exists there. And I think that, you know, when you look at the games, they've done a phenomenal job of developing that world. And then beyond that, in the comics and the books, it's sort of been expanded upon, and there's this amazing lore. And now bringing these masters of anime into the mix and allowing them to sort of have their own unique take on the Halo universe is super exciting. So for those people who are fans of anime, it's going to be just a dream come true, and hopefully it exposes a lot of other people to this art form that maybe they're not familiar with.
I think bringing Halo into the anime space is a very interesting idea, terrific idea. You've got so many styles you can use. You can have these artists work within your universe and yet give you a completely different look. They can play in the fields of the universe. I think that's a very mature thing to do and a very interesting thing to do.
You know, I can't wait to see some of the stuff in Legends out there and see some of the fan reactions to it, because really, deep in my core, you know, the anime has influenced so much of my military science fiction writing, which then, you know, was written down, and the animators have looked at it, and I can't wait to see the fans' reaction to this stuff, because I think it's come full circle, you know, to bite its own tail, and it'll be great.
Halo Legends is such a cool thing to be working on. First off, you've got Halo, and then you've got these studios in Japan who are the dream team. Putting those together is better than what we could have thought was going to happen.
What I really hope, perhaps more than anything else in this entire project, is that people will watch these anime episodes and see that at their heart, they're anime from those creators, and they're not marketing-driven things made by us or story ideas and concepts forced down these guys' throats, that they're a real collaboration where the strong...
Both the director Futamura and Studio 4C have done a wonderful job doing a similar type of historical digest anime called Second Renaissance for the Animatrix, which explored the lore of the Matrix franchise. But this time, actually, the origins itself, however, was a actually bigger challenge. The span of time was just so big, and the perspective of the story changes throughout. So even knowing that the Studio 4C could pull this off going into it, we really wasn't sure how it was going to turn out at the end of the day. But you know, the attention to detail and the kind of the artistry that both director Futamura and Studio 4C brought to this episode has really just been wonderful.
To be honest, I didn't have grand ambitions approaching this project. What was in my mind the most was whether or not I'd be able to satisfy the creators and fans of Halo. The universe is so vast, and there was just so much research, so many visual and text materials that I had to digest. I guess I was driven by this fear of whether I could do justice to this material and meet everyone's expectations.
I was really impressed by the way the studios really immersed themselves in Halo lore. And I had one meeting at one of the studios on my visit to Tokyo where I absolutely got grilled for 2 hours on what is the history of this picture, what are the history of these Guardians, where have they appeared before, what can they do, what is this location, what is its history, what took place here, what could we do here, all of these things. And the amount of thinking they were obviously doing about staying true to the Halo story, but at the same time taking those pictures and those pieces of information and weaving them into their own new parts of the Halo universe.
So when I first heard the pitch for Odd One Out, I thought, can we do comedy? Is that legal? Halo is such a serious place. We're all going to die. The aliens are coming to blow up Earth, and we're all going to die. There's really no comedy in that. But then I saw the script, and I saw the character designs, and I saw the early animations, and I saw Spartan Leet get eaten by a dinosaur, and I thought, yeah, that's definitely legal, and we definitely have to do this episode.
You know, the Halo world tends to be very serious and dark, so why not do a comedy, and why not do something off the wall? When I started speaking with Microsoft, we exchanged ideas like, you know, having Master Chief walk around all day, you know, in his helmet, you know, because he never takes it off in the game, and so he would take a shower with a helmet, you know, have dinner with a helmet. You know, ideas like this were being thrown around, and initially there was a bit of a reservation about going off canon, but I think Microsoft really made a bold decision and decided to allow this off-canon story to happen.
No one else will say it, so I will. The fact that I never give up is one of my good points!
Approaching non-canon stories, you have to do it really delicately, I think, and really take advantage of the fact that it's not dependent on anything that you've done in previous games. And so you have to take advantage of that, and I think have a lot of fun with it. There's a tendency, if it's non-canon, to just have like a watered-down version of, or a lukewarm version of the true fiction, and that's the last thing people want. They want to know, I think, that this is non-canonical, and I can really sit back and enjoy this because I'm not going to be dissecting, what is a little bit off or why this character just died because I know that he's going to be in the sequel or something. So there's a lot of fun you can have there and mess with people's perceptions.
These are awesome. It looks so good. Really pleased. Toei is one of the most storied and respected animation houses in Japan. They've been around since the 40s, in fact, and people like Miyazaki got their start there. Even US audiences are familiar with their output, things like Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, One Piece. They've run the gamut, and we went there knowing that we wanted to do something cute. This is the only story that's off canon in our entire piece, and so we wanted to give them the freedom to have fun with the Halo universe and bring some of their flavor into it, and they certainly did that.
When I had a conversation with Frank and then Joseph, Frank specifically told us that our episode has most freedom compared to other episodes, and I instantly thought of bringing the Dragon Ball main staffs into this Halo universe. I thought that's something that our studio can do best.
The most interesting thing about Toei Animation is that a lot of people have seen their work but may not realize that it's a Toei project. They have been behind some of the most popular anime series of all time, especially when you have Daisuke Nishio involved, who's done the Dragon Ball series, which has moments of seriousness, but also moments of just straight out slapstick.
At the very beginning, he was really reluctant on doing this episode because he's a kind of a person who has an ideology against war itself. So even though this is a video game and it has a really solid universe, he was really reluctant how he can take on this universe.
Yoshi did a clever thing and came up with the idea of, rather than telling the story of Spartans or Covenants or the conflict, why not tell the story of a family that lives in this planet, and the Covenant and the Spartans just happen to fall into their world and invade their space. But it's really the story of this family and how they wish to stay away from the conflict itself, or not being even aware of it. And I guess that really sparked the interest of the director to flesh out that idea and then turn it into script form and make it into something that was funny and interesting and also touching.
The Halo universe is wonderfully detailed and fleshed out already. So rather than creating an additional layer on top of that universe, I thought it would be interesting to do something unique and different from the beginning. So we would utilize the motif of existing elements and characters, such as the Spartans, but introduce new elements and themes to this universe, a type of spin-off story.
After we talked about the idea and the story with Frank, Nishio, and I, we agreed instantly that we need the Nakatsuru. But the problem is, Nishio, the director, is kind of a person who walks real slow. And Nakatsuru is also kind of person who walks real slow. So the head of the studio told me that there's no way we put these two together, and that's the reason for the last 25 years they're now working together.
Well, this was sort of a reunion project of the creative team that worked on the Dragon Ball series, especially the reunion with the character designer Nakazuru and myself. All the team members, with Nakazuru at the center, reunited to bring back and channel the passion that we had during the production of Dragon Ball. We all wanted to project that creative passion and energy for this episode, but we also wanted to utilize the latest anime.
Even after the Dragon Ball series ended its run, I was involved with doing Dragon Ball arts for creator Akira Toriyama. So I guess over time, my visual touches, or even comedic timing, grew to absorb Toriyama-san's style. When you look at the original characters in this episode, you could probably see the Dragon Ball influence in my design proportion and balance.
I think everybody in the industry wanted to have these two together, and they too wanted to work together for so long, for the last 25 years, because they made such a legendary big hit series of Dragon Ball Z. I tried to convince the head of the studios for so long, and I don't think they haven't been convinced even now when almost the episode is finished.
They're not exactly known for delivering materials on time. I mean, Yoshi really took it on his chin, but you know, it's actually to his credit that the Odd One Out was actually was delivered the earliest. He was able to bring this great team together and deliver the fastest of all the studios.
So in some ways, the Toei episode was the riskiest and least risky proposition, because it's risky because anytime you go off canon, you're going to upset some portion of the fans. But by the same token, if it's presented to them as non-canonical and a piece of fun and a thing that you should enjoy on its own merits and on its likeness, then there's no risk at all. We could have had any...
We wanted to tell a story about a normal human soldier, not about Spartans or Master Chief. With that, we knew we would be able to create incredible mecha action sequences never seen before. Director Aramaki is obviously the master in creating mecha action, so my role in this project was to develop a complementary human drama around it. I actually wanted to focus on telling the story of the people on the battlefield, their emotions, fears, and regrets, and their ultimate redemption. That's what I thought was so great about the Halo games themselves. It's not just the incredibly detailed universe or the action, but this story of courage, valor, and sacrifice at the heart of it.
Master Chief is obviously the most well-known hero in the Halo universe, but I also wanted to show a heroic image of normal human soldiers as well, those who might not be so-called super soldiers. The power suit design by Shinji Aramaki was a perfect conduit to create that, a prototype design for normal humans.
Aramaki's design for the prototype battlesuit is really cool. It really fits into the piece well, and although he didn't direct it personally, you can see that he's a huge fan of the game and that he took a lot of his love for the Halo series and put it into the design of that suit in the segment.
I've long admired Aramaki's designs of powered armor in his past anime works, and always wanted to work with him utilizing that design aesthetic. When he first came to discuss the project, he actually took out his pencil and sketched his rough design on the spot. When I saw that, I said, that's it, and decided that I really wanted to work on this episode. That sketch really stimulated my imagination to create over-the-top action sequences. Power Suit is a vehicle, obviously, but once a human character slips into it, the suit itself actually becomes a real character, I think. That's how I chose to approach the story.
Halo players love new stuff. They love new equipment, they love new vehicles, they love new weapons, and we've combined equipment, vehicles, and weapons into this prototype suit that the episode is named after. And I think there's going to be a fairly reasonable calling to get stuff like that in future games. Babysitter episode is really interesting for me because it deals with the difference between Spartans and humans. The ODSTs are an elite special force within the UNSC that's often tasked with going into combat zones before anybody else, either soften up opponents, take out dangerous installations, but they're typically in small groups and in the most dangerous scenarios in the entire war.
I guess that makes you the backup. Sorry, O'Brien. I'm the backup? And the shooter is a Spartan. What?
Babysitter is a great episode for showing the competition that exists between the human soldiers, the ODSTs, and the Spartans, because the Spartans are the biggest, baddest thing around, absolutely. But the UNSC has a lot of other very tough soldiers, very mean soldiers, and they absolutely want their ability to fight against the Covenant as well.
Studio 4C is one of the most well-known anime studios in Japan, obviously known for their quality and independent spirit. But they're also well-known in the West for their work on the Animatrix, Batman, Gotham Knight, and Title Axis Spriggan.
Studio 4C has always had a fairly different approach to both their work and anime in general. 4C's approach is kind of like a slightly more edgy indie kind of a vibe, but they're also very good at traditional storytelling, and we felt pretty confident after our first meetings with 4C that they were going to pull off something fairly spectacular. And I think definitely the ODST themed episode called Babysitter shows off a very traditional action-oriented human story.
ODST のエピソードは This episode is about an ODST team and a Spartan joining forces to face tremendous odds in a mission. It's a story of camaraderie on the battlefield. So we needed a director who's gifted in the action genre, but who could also bring the human drama into play. Director Kano is someone I picked to tackle this challenge. I believe he carries a sense of humanity and warmth. He's one of Studio 4C's most promising creators. And I couldn't find a better opportunity to showcase his talent to the world than this episode.
Well, Director Kanno came with the highest recommendation from Ms. Eiko Tanaka, who's the head of the studio. We actually were very pleased to find that he brought his own unique interpretation of the Halo universe, how it might look and how the characters would be interpreted. It's not a straight translation or interpretation of the existing Halo universe per se, but his style definitely was a perfect fit for the story for the ODST.
What also attracted me to this episode was the terrific action sequences that I'd be able to craft. ODSTs are human soldiers, not enhanced like Spartans, but just as tough. So I designed both ODST and Spartan to be similar in size and dimension to convey their prowess.
That was the first time ever I saw like the Halo characters in a more like a 2D animated way, and seeing a Spartan like that, it was so different. Seeing some of the fights that you get in the game.
It was happening out in the skies of the Halo universe before, but we've never been able to see them happen before, and it's great to finally be able to see that.
I wanted to do a story about the Spartans before the events of the first Halo game, or even the novel The Fall of Reach. As a player of the game, these are things I always wanted to see, so it was wonderful to get the opportunity to create them visually.
Director Aramaki is a longtime friend of mine, but he's probably the only anime director that I know who is a huge fan of Halo and also legendary player at that. So having him actually tackle this franchise itself, I mean, it really was a joy to see the kind of sensibility and ideas and designs that he brought to this episode. And the end result is something that hopefully not only just contribute to the Halo universe, but possibly enhance some of the aspects when it comes to designs.
Having Aramaki play in the Halo world just totally melts my brain. I think it's very, very cool to have an anime coming out. I'm very excited, and it's like this symbiotic relationship that Halo shares with anime. Then to go so far as to tell me that Aramaki is actually going to be helming one of the chapters is like, brain exploded. I can't, process it. It's just too cool.
So Casio was unfamiliar territory for us. We knew, of course, Shinji Aramaki, the director, very well from his previous work, but Casio had this really cool, unique visual approach to CG, and we figured that we could work with them to get the type of imagery that we wanted, even though it's vastly different from their previous work. With Aramaki shepherding that, we were pretty confident that the stuff was going to turn out beautifully. And it did. And in fact, Casio was one of the first studios to send us animation samples very early in the project, turned it over very quickly, and the quality was stunning.
I think that one of the wonderful moments from our team really was when we saw that first Aramaki piece, because for us, that's the closest because it's CG and it's the closest to games. But yet it brought it to life in a different way than you see in our games, and I think it made it real in a different way.
So the The piece that's on screen right now was the first expression test that Casio sent us. Show us how the Master Chief was going to look, and also to show us what the overall quality of the CG anime was going to look and how it was going to look.
Right. But in terms of the movements that you're looking at here, I think the director was concerned about using Japanese actors because the body expression is a little different from, say, Western actors or...
I think that can be true in the mocap. We were using Japanese athletes, stunt persons, and gymnasts.
Right.
And I think, honestly, their professions had more to do with that than their ethnicity, to be honest. I think that there is a lightness to it, but I think that one of the things about real Spartans, as far as the canon goes, is that they can move with great agility and speed. And so I think that was caught in the mocap beautifully. And I think, more importantly, it's the adjustments that were made to the mocap data after the fact are part of what makes it work so well.
Yeah, because I think one of the concerns was the fact that, you know, a lot of Spartans, we don't get to see their faces a lot.
Yep.
So it's really a lot of the physical expressions of their body, like that's part of the acting. And I think in terms of action, we use a lot of the action actors or the dancers, but when it comes to acting, we need to use actors with, you know, who can actually express certain emotions through their movements.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that is being talked about a lot in the Halo universe, but very seldom captured properly, is the physicality of a Spartan. Seen a little bit of it in the Halo Wars CG, but Spartans move at great speed considering they weigh almost a ton. Just the idea of a Spartan charging through any environment should be, it should be intimidating, it should be a little bit menacing, and I think that that's another thing that these guys had to work hard to capture.
So when you actually first came to us, you actually preferred to have a cel-shaded look, you know, as opposed to a real look, right?
Yeah, we had this discussion with you guys over and over again. We didn't want to make a cartoon. We didn't want to make a CG movie. We wanted to make a series of anime pieces, and so it was important to us that the spirit of that was true and not a synthesis of it.
Right.
Usually people, when they think about anime, the first thing is like cel shading, traditional animation, and Aramaki was, in my opinion, one of the first like people to do it right with like the Appleseed series. I was really impressed that he was able to bring some of that cel shading.
Aramaki actually comes from a very interesting background as a designer and an artist. A lot of his work that is recognized are from titles such as Robotech or Transformers even, and Bubblegum Crisis, and even the works that he directed such as Appleseed and Appleseed Ex Machina. You know, the sensibility that he brings is not only about the dramatic storytelling, but it's really also about the design aspects and visual aspects, which is why it's extra special to have him involved. Especially as a fan of Halo, I think there are a lot of things that he wanted to do that he got to explore in this episode that probably would be fascinating, not just for the fans of anime, but fans of Halo as well.
I created a lot of mecha designs in the past that are quite fantastic in nature, Transformers, for example. But I also created more realistic designs, transforming motorcycle suits in titles like Robotech. What I found interesting about the Halo design aesthetic was the fact that it depicted these type of near-future technologies. For example, in Halo, weapons are more similar to present day, using propelled bullets and grenades rather than laser beams. So when I played Halo, I actually began wondering about things like, how would Master Chief be changing his bullet magazines? So in my episode, you will notice a lot of my visual gimmicks and designs are like that, which is purely out of my personal curiosity and imagination. I hope the fans will find such visualization interesting as well.
There are a lot of design elements that distinguish Aramaki's work. You know, the way the angles and the lines and the tech details are incorporated. His total knowledge of the sci-fi tech cyber universe as a whole. It takes me back to that sort of 13-year-old mindset that I had where I was just looking at Robotech stuff and just absolutely geeking out. To be able to see, you know, a master like Aramaki put that into moving pictures, you know, aside from just a video game. It's not a cut scene, it's not, you know, an animatic for the video game. This is an actual anime, you know, that transcends the whole video game experience. Is just absolutely mind-numbingly cool for any fan of the genre.